Welcome to the Viva Vegan Minisode, with me Faye.
And me Rachel. So there's been quite a lot of news stories this week, Faye. Let's jump straight in and talk about them. And one story that's particularly got my goat, it's got me quite riled up, is a lot of studies are coming out claiming essentially that vegan meats are bad for you and they can cause heart disease. And what I find quite interesting about this is in the studies, they've basically said that ultra-processed foods cause heart disease, which we all know.
Yeah.
It's just common sense, right? And the journalists, in an attempt to be controversial and to get clicks, have decided to frame this as vegan meat alternatives. But it's really any processed food that can cause heart disease. And they've just essentially run with the narrative that, all vegans are, one of the headlines was that vegans are slowly killing themselves, which is super dramatic.
It's very dramatic.
It's just not true, because it actually has to say, because of the science in the article, that if you follow a whole food plant-based diet, your chances of cardiovascular disease actually reduced by 20%.
Yeah, and so it's crazy. It was the Telegraph, wasn't it?
Yeah,
It was
it was.
But it was, I read that as well. He did have an opinion, and it seemed like he was out, from the tone of his voice, to just kind of demonise vegans full stop, and he was calling it the fad diet, and it was kind of it was an extremely biased piece of writing. And the thing is we know that ultra-processed anything is bad. Yeah. And no
one's claiming it's good.
No vegan lives on a diet of just Beyond Burgers all the time, or fake meats, and it's ridiculous, isn't it? Yeah. And we actually know, because one of his arguments was around the NHS, so obviously we know that brings up a lot of emotions for people. And he was trying to kind of feed in that we're the cause of problems with the NHS in this article. But we know that if people actually adopted a vegan lifestyle, it would save 6.7 billion
for the NHS.
For the NHS.
That was a study that came out earlier this year that I think we talked about in a previous minisode. So it's just very crazy to me that he obviously has an agenda, and it's really sad. Like, I always get my dad sending me these articles like, oh, they're on at the vegans again, right? And it's wild, but that's why it's just more important for us to keep pushing the narrative and keep explaining to people that if you're eating ultra processed foods every meal of every day, that's not going to be healthy. But if you have them now and again, and then you eat mostly whole food plant-based diet, you'll be grand.
Exactly that. And as we know, red meat is a class 1 carcinogen. And we know that there's studies linking diabetes and things like this to a diet that is rich in a lot of red meat and dairy, as opposed to a vegan diet, where studies and scientific papers have been proven to show that you can reduce so many different symptoms by following a healthy plant-based lifestyle. I mean,
you're just eating plants. We're always told, eat more plants.
Eat more plants.
Just do it.
Fruit, vegetables, legumes,
grains, beans, pulses.
Absolutely.
Tofu is just bean, isn't it?
Yeah, it's great. And that ties in very nicely with a podcast Rachel and I did, where we speak to 2 GPs who are health professionals who've got their own podcast as well, and they talk a lot about this.
Yeah, they were great. Dr. Daisy Lund and Claire Day from the UK plant-based health professionals, who were just fabulous, and they were telling us all the sorts of ins and outs about the NHS and about why being vegan is the best. And we already know it is, but tune into the episode to find out why.
They're actual professionals.
Yeah, don't just take our word for it.
So our next story is all about health professionals urging the government to withdraw their meat adverts. These adverts kind of went out during Veganuary, didn't they? And they were very disingenuous in the claims around supplements and things like that being found within meat, but they failed to mention that B12 is often a byproduct that is added. And the videos that went out were to prop up the dairy and meat industry and to kind of go out at the same time as the Veganuary adverts to suggest to people that, vegans aren't getting all of our vitamins.
Yeah, I mean, it's a very, I would say, smart move from them. Their marketing team are working overtime because the vegan movement is growing so much. And it was part of the Let's Eat Balanced campaign that, you're right, was launching in Veganuary. And you've probably seen the adverts when you're watching TV at home. It was basically, it wasn't advertising anything other than eating meat or eating dairy or drinking milk. And it was our friends at Plant-Based Health Professionals, who we've already talked about in this episode, have written an open letter essentially advising the NHS to remove the ads.
Absolutely. They're kind of, laying claim to the fact that they are quite disingenuous.
Yeah.
There's a lot more that goes on behind it that the ads fail to mention, and it sounds like propaganda. Let's be honest.
Oh, big time, yeah. I mean, if you think how much like it costs to pay for an ad to be screened, if you were like a brand and you were selling, I don't know, vegan milk, you'd have to pay hundreds of thousands of pounds to air this ad at sort of prime time TV, which is when these ads were going out. They were going out sort of like Channel 4, 8 p.m. when everyone's in front of the telly. So they've put a lot of money. I would hazard a guess hundreds of thousands, if not millions, into basically telling people to eat meat. And it is for years propaganda, isn't it?
It is, completely.
Your country needs you, kind of. Yeah.
The country needs you to eat meat.
Yeah.
It's quite interesting. But you know what the good thing about that is? It shows that veganism, plant-based alternatives are having such an effect on it that they've felt the need to do that. It's such a kind of reactive stance to take. It must mean that there's being, you know, that the movement's growing. Yeah,
for sure. I mean, you might have seen as well the fact that they've now launched dairy milk with added oat milk. Have you seen this?
No. Why?
And I was watching it and I was thinking, who's this for? Because it's not for the vegans. So obviously.
That for?
And I think it's just a sort of a way of trying to make their product stay relevant, because so many people drink oat milk now, not just vegans. It's like I was in a coffee shop the other day and pretty much everyone was all having an oat latte, oat flat white. So it's just sort of taking off so much, and I think they're trying to keep the spirit of milk alive.
Keep milking those poor mothers. Oh my.
That's crazy, but yeah, just you're right, it shows that we're having a really positive impact. So yeah, let's keep it up, vegans.
Yeah, so we're going to talk a little bit about some of the Viva campaigns that are going on at the moment.
Yeah.
So the first campaign we have is, well, it's a dildo campaign, isn't it, Rachel?
Yes, it is, and you're going to have to excuse me at home if I blush, because I am a self-confessed prude, so this is going to be awkward for me to talk about. But why don't you go ahead and explain about the dildo, Faye?
Why not? So, our campaign is basically talking about how fake meats, as they're kind of known, are not seen as the real thing by people. And so what we did is we took to the streets, filmed some people saying, would you sign this petition to get dildos banned because it's not the real thing? And we were drawing the kind of comparison with how that's what meat eaters say about, you know, why have you got sausages in this vegan products in the shape of sausages? Why do you need to call them this? And we were kind of highlighting, in a sort of tongue-in-cheek way, the hypocrisy of that.
Yeah.
And making the connection of, look, vegan meat is as real as you want it to be. You know, we can do all the same recipes, but we can veganize them. And so, the campaign has been launched. It's a very sort of, it's a fun little, it's, you know, it's meant to ruffle a few feathers and make people giggle.
Yeah, it's just quite a light-hearted campaign, which I think is a really fun sort of angle for Viva, because as you guys at home know, we do lots of very hard-hitting campaigns where we have to see a lot of horrible things, and it's so important that we continue to do that work so that we can expose what goes on in factory farming. But equally, it's fun to do these kind of light-hearted campaigns as well, to show that vegans do have a sense of humour, despite what people say about us. And I just think it's a funny sort of light-hearted campaign. Might ruffle a few feathers, might make a few people blush.
Mostly you. Mostly Rachel.
But it's funny old campaign, and you can check it out across all of our social platforms.
So our next story is our friends at Animal Rising have, we'll say attacked, they didn't really attack, but they've made a statement against King Charles's portrait by placing Wallace and Gromit images and talking about the RSPCA assurance scheme and asking for it to be dropped.
Yeah.
King Charles is a big supporter of the RSPCA.
Yeah, I think he's their patron.
Yeah. He's heavily involved in that, but as you know, he claims to really care about animal welfare, and he talks a lot about the environment.
Yeah.
And yet isn't vegan.
Exactly, yeah. And I mean, the RSPCA assured scheme, pretty much all of the farms we go to, a vast majority of them anyway, are under the RSPCA assured scheme. And as you'll know from our investigations, the scenes in there are not at all kind to any of the animals. And the RSPCA assured scheme is at loads of farms that are doing wrongdoings, basically. So our friends at Animal Rising were essentially calling on King Charles to sort out the RSPCA and either scrap the RSPCA assured scheme or, you know, start getting them to treat animals better. And I actually read, interestingly, the other day that the RSPCA have removed meat recipes from their website.
Oh, interesting.
Which is a huge step, but it does shock me in the first place that a society that loves animals so much relies on the RSPCA and they've got meat recipes, because that's animals. obviously.
I agree. I know, it's a funny old world we live in.
It's crazy, yeah. But just want to shout out to Animal Rising for doing that, and send our solidarity with what they've done.
Absolutely. And what was great about this as well is that no charges were pressed. They were asked to leave. There was no damage done to the portrait.
Yeah.
Although it's a terrible portrait in my opinion. I feel like it's absolutely horrifying, and I preferred the Wallace and Gromit on there.
But it was sort of a peaceful protest, and it's got loads of news coverage. There's been sort of headline news this week, so huge from them. Well done, guys.
So McDonald's are actually bringing out 2 kind of McFlurries, vegan ones.
Yeah.
And they're going to be rolling them out across like numerous stores across the UK. I didn't see it in Bristol.
No, it's starting up north and then it's making its way down.
Okay, fair enough. That's fair.
They're trying it up north. So it's 2 different flavours, strawberry and chocolate. And I don't think they've really done like a vegan dessert before. I know that their apple pie is accidentally vegan.
Unintentionally.
They've sort of launched a new little sweet treat just in time for the summer. And I think it's really positive to see McDonald's, they're obviously not the most ethical company in the world, but being able to see them introducing plant-based alternatives on their menus, because when I first went vegan, I just thought that's never going to happen. Yeah. And it shows that the demand is there. Like the McPlant burger, that's been out, I don't know how long now, a couple of years now, and that's always like a bestseller. Mm-hmm. So it's just great to see them, stepping in the right direction. And McDonald's, if you're listening, it'd be great to see you guys add in more. Why not, if you've proven that you can get a delicious dessert with the ice cream that's vegan, why not make all the McFlurries vegan? You can do it.
And it's only £1.59, which I think is very important. We get a lot of people sort of commenting on our videos and social media posts saying, why would you promote something like McDonald's, or why would you promote KFC or something like this? And while it's important that we take a very strong stance on this, we know that the majority of people out there who maybe are interested in flexitarianism or might be considering vegetarianism, who haven't gone fully vegan yet, it's very important for those people to have access to plant-based foods and to vegan food in a way that, not everyone does cook at home and eat healthily, but they might nip out to McDonald's. That might just be what they do. Yeah, so it's great that, these are going to be rolled out across the UK and lots of people get to try plant-based ice cream. Yeah,
it's a nice cheap price point, makes it accessible. Yeah, love it.
Great.
So let's talk about Hellmann's mayo.
Okay.
It's the best one, I would say. Better than Heinz.
Agreed.
I think it's got to be Heinz for ketchup and Hellmann's for mayo.
Absolutely.
Vegan mayo, of course.
Coleman's for mustard.
I say vegan mayo, however, they've recently changed it to plant-based mayo, which was quite an interesting move from them. I think their sort of marketing strategy, which we love because we're marketing nerds, is essentially saying that calling something plant-based makes it more accessible to people who are flexitarian or who are veggie or who are just trying out the whole vegan malarkey. Rather than calling something vegan, their marketing team believes that it sort of narrows down the pool of people who are going to buy it. I'm really interested in this to see in sort of 3 and 6 months' time how the sales have gone. Have they skyrocketed because they've advertised it as plant-based?
I'm really interested in this as well. It's like the power of semantics, isn't it?
For sure, yeah.
I mean, in one respect, it's great because veganism it's on the rise. Yeah. And at the same time, we're still sort of battling those negative associations to do with the word vegan. Vegan. And whether it's called plant-based or vegan, I think it so long as the end result is the same, which is the cruelty-free aspect of it, I think that's brilliant.
As long as they don't change the recipe as well. Because I did see in our local vegan groups people saying they can add something to it that makes it
that's the thing that frightens me a little bit, because when I think it was Plant Kitchen for M&S, and I grabbed something and it was something free, but I assumed it would be duck free. But it wasn't. It was the bread is gluten free, but the marketing and labelling can be quite complicated sometimes.
It can be, for sure, and I think plant-based is kind of vague, because I've definitely picked up stuff on the shelf before and been plant-based, that's going to be fine then, and then it contains honey, which vegans don't eat.
Exactly.
So it's a bit of a grey area, but I mean, I'm not adverse to standing in the aisle reading the label of something. I've been doing it for 6 years. If I have to do it for another 6 years to save the animals, I'll do it for the rest of my life.
Exactly.
I'll be really interested to see when they publish the stats. Hopefully they've shifted way more and everyone goes over to the vegan mayo, because I think it's genuinely the same, and I'm not just saying this as a certified vegan. I only have that in my house.
Yeah, I can't really remember.
No one ever notices the difference.
Yeah, I don't really remember mayonnaise, but I know that it's really good. It is lovely. I love it with chips. delicious. And make sure you tune into the full-length podcasts as well, because we've got some amazing guests on there. We spoke to Ryan Edwards at the Queen Inn, which is like the best vegan restaurant according to Happy Cow now at this point.
I spoke to the lovely Nicole, aka Vegan Beauty Girl. I spoke to Andy from this, and we both spoke to Dr. Daisy Lund and Claire Day from Plant-Based Health Professionals. Stephanie Lane from Specialism, which Izzy did that interview, and it's really, really good, very insightful.
Feldy as well, the rapper.
Yes.
He's great. If you haven't heard of him already, he's really, really good. And this will be the last series before we go to Vegan Campout. And we'll be filming some more podcast episodes at Campout with some of the bigger names there as well.
We've got celebrities.
We have celebrities.
At Campout, and I can't tell you who they are because it's a secret, but you're in for a treat.
Yes, you are. All right, thank you so much for tuning in, and we'll see you next month.
Bye, guys.
Bye.